Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for an important announcement. I'm Darrell Steinberg. I'm the President Pro Tem of the California State Senate, and maybe more importantly, I represent Sacramento in the State Senate. And I'm very pleased to be joined by our new Assembly member, longtime community leader, Roger Dickinson, who will be my legislative partner in the endeavors that we will discuss in a few moments, and Carrie Howell, the mayor or council member from the city of Folsom, and Matt Mayhood, who is, of course, the director of the Sacramento Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and its leader, and Oscar Villegas, city council member from West Sacramento, and Stan Dean, who is the executive director of the Sacramento Regional Sanitation District. Members of the media and members of the public who are here, we're here today for one reason: to help protect our residences, businesses, and the region's struggling economy from any excessive costs associated with the recently ordered upgrade to the Sacramento Regional Sewage Treatment Plant. As most of you know, last week, the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board issued a revised permit for the sewage treatment plant. The district estimates that the cost of upgrading treatment and improving water quality in the Delta, a goal, of course, that we all share, could be up to $2 billion over the duration of the permit. Our goal here today is to ensure that all the parties who benefit from the water that comes through the Delta and from Northern California help pay their fair share of the costs of restoring and maintaining water quality. Now, there is some history and context here which I think is very important. Last year, the governor and the legislature came together to pass a comprehensive water package to improve water supply reliability and to restore the Delta ecosystem. I had some small involvement in the passage of that legislation. And certainly as we attempted to address the various water challenges and needs of the various regions throughout the state, I was very willing to accept the notion that some projects that for some might appear regional in scope actually had and have significant statewide impact. Whether it's Chapter 8 of the still-to-be voted upon bond that provides general fund dollars for surface storage projects, whether it is the billions of dollars allocated to restore the ecosystem of the Delta itself, whether it's the various regional conservation and groundwater projects, we've made the decision that what affects one region in a significant and substantial way, in fact, has statewide impact. And so it is true of the challenges faced by the Sacramento Regional Sanitation District and our Sacramento region. The legislation itself that we passed last year states that the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta is a resource of statewide importance and significance. It further states that it is a state responsibility to ensure ecosystem restoration and water supply reliability. Simply put, we are here today to ensure that while Sacramentans bear their fair share of the responsibility, not walking away from that, that the responsibility to clean up the Delta and restore its ecosystem is one that is shared equitably among those who benefit from Delta water, and not just singularly imposed on our region. And so today is a start, and Assemblymember Dickinson and I, with the support of our local representatives, are taking several important actions. First, we are introducing two bills. I'll let Assemblymember Dickinson speak about his legislation, which I will jointly or co-author in a moment, my Senate Bill 60 will appropriate $50 million from Proposition 84 and Propositions 1E for the purposes of helping offset any initial cost to our area's small businesses and residents for plant upgrades. These funds will come from allocations already approved by the voters of this state for purposes of clean water, delta ecosystem protection, and water quality. This bill at the beginning of the session will be a work in progress because we'll be working with other state agencies to identify other funds that can be used for this purpose and up that $50 million figure. Second, in addition to the bill, again, that Assemblymember Dickinson will talk about, we are co-authoring a letter to our federal counterparts in the Congress and the United States Senate to ask for their assistance in identifying federal funds that can be used to help improve Delta water quality and upgrade the regional plant. We'll be working very closely with our federal partners and our congressional delegation and the Chamber of Commerce in the coming months, just as we have on regional flood protection and other issues, to make sure that we take advantage of every available federal dollar for these purposes. Assemblymember Dickinson and I have already been hard at work with the district over the last several weeks. We have convened the water stakeholders, the people I got to know all so well during the famous or infamous water negotiation. And we've already had some very productive discussions with the stakeholders, especially those who export water south of the Delta. And so these bills are a beginning, and we will continue those discussions to make sure that Sacramento lives up to its share of the responsibility, that the Delta is cleaned up, but that the costs are borne in a way that is fair and do not create a greater economic challenge in the greater Sacramento region than the challenge which already exists. Thank you. Assemblymember Dickinson, thank you for stepping up in your first days as Assembly member. Roger is going to be a great partner. Thank you.
Thanks, Darrell.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Darrell. You just can't leave sewage behind, no matter where you go. Thanks very much, Darrell, for your leadership, not just on this issue, but on so many issues that fundamentally affect the nature and quality of life here in the Sacramento region and truly across the state of California. As Darrell noted, last week's decision of the Regional Quality Water Board has enormous cost implications for Sacramento wastewater ratepayers. In fact, the analysis done by the district shows that ratepayer bills may as much as triple to meet the estimated $2 billion cost of the plant upgrades required here at this site in order to meet the requirements of the permit that was approved last week. And while I share Senator Steinberg's sentiment that it is appropriate that Sacramento ratepayers and businesses bear their fair share, it is also appropriate that the residents and businesses of Sacramento County and the surrounding area don't bear a disproportionate or unfair burden as we seek to ensure the environmental stability and quality of the Delta and meet the many needs and demands of those who rely on the Delta and its resources. We want to make sure that those who seek to do business in Sacramento County are not forced to the edge of economic uncertainty or even failure by virtue of the bills that they would face under the current circumstances that are projected with regard to the consequences of the permit approved last week. And so we come here today to offer legislation that we believe is fair and is in the interest of not just Sacramentans, but in the state wide interest in the Delta and in economic viability. The legislation that I will introduce and share along with Senator Steinberg is really a simple measure in essence. It will, simply put, give the Regional Sanitation District the authority to market and sell its recycled water. Now, this is not unprecedented authority. In fact, those who discharge into the San Joaquin River already enjoy such discretion under state law, subject to a state water board permit. And in fact, the city of Stockton recently received a permit to undertake just this kind of activity. In the case of the Sacramento Regional Sanitation District, we estimate there's about 180,000 acre-feet of water that could be used for this purpose over the course of each year. And that water could have a value ranging anywhere from $100 an acre-foot on up to several $100s an acre-foot. So the economic impact, the value of this, could be on the order of $18 million or more a year. While this is a down payment, in a sense, on the cost of the upgrades of this facility, it will be an important contribution. And it should be noted that this is water which is available for agricultural and municipal recycling uses. It's not part of the natural flow that comes into the Sacramento River, and it constitutes only about 1 or 2% of the river's daily flow. So it is not a significant factor in terms of the water that is available for other water users who rely on the Delta and the Sacramento River system for water supply. These are measures which we think are reasonable, are in fact precedented, and should be available to this district in order to help it meet its obligations under the permit that was approved last week. I look forward to working with Senator Steinberg, and I appreciate the opportunity, even at this early date in my tenure in the State Assembly, to continue in effect work that I was part of as a member of the Regional Sanitation District Board, it seems like just weeks ago. In fact, as I chaired that board up until a little bit less than a month ago, we worked on a number of these measures in order to be prepared for what we could foresee in the future. While we may have our quarrels with the permit that was approved last week, we are also always ready as Sacramentans to step up to do our fair share. And I believe that this is part of a package which will accomplish that goal and that purpose. You want me to introduce Carrie?
Yeah.
And
Tim Reardon there for Allison Huber.
Okay.
Welcome.
Tim Reardon.
Tim, just say hello.
Say hello.
For Allison Huber.
For Allison Huber, thank you. And I want to introduce Councilwoman Carrie Howell from the city of Folsom, who this past year has been the vice chair of the Regional Sanitation District Board, and now as I have moved on, I won't say graduated, I'll just say moved on, Carrie has now taken on the responsibility of chairing the board. Carrie Howell.
Thank you, Roger. And I'd like to thank, on behalf of the board and all of the residents in the region, I'd like to thank Senator Steinberg and our favorite new Assembly member Dickinson for their assistance. And this has happened very, very quickly. There's been a lot of speculation in since last Thursday as to what action the board is likely to take. It is likely that we will, in fact, appeal this decision by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. We're still concerned, as we've been saying in press releases and in letters to the editor and at our meetings, that we're concerned about whether or not some of the requirements that are in the new permit are based on sound science, and we will continue to make those arguments as we move forward. We greatly appreciate the legislation related to our ability to retain that reclaimed water. We greatly appreciate the ability, hopefully, to get both some federal and state money to help us pay for our fair share of what will be required by this new permit. But as both Senator Steinberg and Assemblymember Dickinson have said, we think that it's only fair that Sacramento pay its fair share, and that others in the Delta and south of here who export water pay their fair share as well. So thank you for all being here today. And I'm going to introduce another one of our strong supporters, and that will be Matt Mayhood from the Sac Metro Chamber.
Thank you, Carrie. My name is Matt Mayhood. I'm President and CEO of the Sacramento Metro Chamber, and we represent more than 2,000 businesses in the greater Sacramento region, which 80% of them are made up of small businesses who employ 25 employees or less. It's the Metro Chamber's firm belief that the implementation of the tentative discharge permit that was approved last week by the Central Valley Water Quality Board will have a devastating impact on the already burdened and overstretched ratepayers and businesses in the Sacramento region. The Metro Chamber believes that the board has significantly overreached with the new increased sewage treatment requirements, and that these new treatment requirements come at a time and a significant cost to the Sacramento region that we simply cannot afford to bear, either for the average ratepayer or for the businesses who are currently struggling in the current economic malaise. We have heard from the region's largest employers, and they have significant concerns. Many of them were present at last week's hearing, expressing their views. And they said if sewer hookup fees and monthly bills increase, they will be forced to look either elsewhere to grow their business, or may take their business to other regions throughout the state or out of state. With Sacramento County's unemployment rate at 12.8%, we simply cannot afford to make doing business in this region more costly. We need to be working to attracting more businesses. We need to be working to retaining more businesses, not scaring them away. The Metro Chamber understands that the problems in the Delta are complicated, and that those factors, including non-native invasive species, Southern California's enormous water intake pumps, high salinity levels, agricultural runoff, and reduced flows, all need to be addressed in a comprehensive, integrative fashion without overburdening one region's economy over another. Our region is willing to do its fair share to address the problems in the Delta, but laying the burden of what amounts to a $2 billion experiment onto the Sacramento region's ratepayers and business community is not an equitable solution. The economic harm is real, while the science and outcome of this $200 billion experiment is still debatable. I join Senator Steinberg and Assemblyman Dickinson in supporting what they're moving forward with legislative action, and the Metro Chamber looks forward to working with our federal delegation as well to try to bring an equitable solution to the Sacramento region and really reduce this crisis and the impact it will have on our region's economy. Thank you. Oscar? Nope. Good. Stan?
Good.
Okay.
Good. As Assembly Member and I and the other speakers would be happy to stand for a few questions.
A year.
Assuming you get it sold.
That doesn't seem like a lot out of $2 billion. Is the rest going to be borne by taxpayers? Or can you get into that the numbers?
Again, we are beginning to work with the region and with the other water stakeholders throughout California and the legislature to help develop a comprehensive finance plan for whatever the eventual permit decision is and for whatever the financial requirement is. And you could consider this sort of the beginning stake in the ground here. What will continue to go on weekly is our work and our staff's work with the various water stakeholders throughout the state, with other legislative leaders, and with the new governor to ensure that in the end there is not a rate shock here in the greater Sacramento region, and that it's fair.
You mentioned several times a fair share. What would be a fair share?
I think we'll know it when we see it, right? To quote the famous Potter Stewart line. You know, will tell you, just again reflect a little bit on the 2009 water negotiation, which was historic, first time in 40 years. that the state was able to break through and pass comprehensive water legislation. There's a lot of science here, but there's also a lot of political science. And the political science is around coming to understandings with the rest of the state. Look, I don't stand here and say that the proper state share for surface storage or for various regional projects throughout the state is X amount of dollars. Some of this is line drawing in the most fair way possible. But the Regional Sand Board, we will work very closely with the board and its staff to make sure that a package is crafted in the end that is fair and reasonable to the ratepayers of this district. Because again, if we're gonna consider other important projects throughout the state to be of statewide impact, we're going to insist, based on the merits, that this project be included in that category as well.
Can I add a word on that?
Yeah, of course.
I think what Carrie Howell had to say is important here, that it is more than likely that the Regional Sanitation District is going to appeal last week's decision. So in part, what will determine a fair share, I think, will depend on what the ultimate disposition of the permit is. And I think that as the permit that was acted on last week by the regional board is reviewed, there needs to be an examination of whether the totality of that permit is conditions and requirements is justified or not. Now, I think that the outcome of that will ultimately have an impact on what we believe to be a fair share. But I also share Senator Steinberg's sentiment that it is something that will be derived over time, and today should be seen not as the end point, but the beginning. Do you want to talk about that, Stan?
The first step is to make sure that the authority to market the water is clearer than it is today. We actually believe that there is some existing authority for us to market the water, and this helps streamline the process greatly. As far as individual markets, no, we have not started to go out and work on deals about who buys what water for what cost. There are a wide range of opportunities out there. There are opportunities within the Sacramento region to use the water. There are opportunities within the Delta to use it. There are opportunities downstream of the Delta to use it. And these are some of the things that need to be looked at in the coming years just to see what makes best sense for the region and for the state. At this point in time, our wastewater flows are actually pretty steady in terms of year to year, not increasing a lot. One of the things that we are finding, water conservation actually is having an effect in Sacramento, and we are bearing that out in that our flows in recent years have not increased of what's actually coming to this plant.